Hey guys, welcome back to the BuzWeaver channel. And in our top stories today from the post-millennial, breaking, White House press team to determine press pool, not White House Correspondents Association. I find this fascinating for me particularly, and I wanted to share it with you. I'll try to make this as entertaining and informative as possible. But the White House Correspondents Association has really been the ones who determine who is able to attend like the White House briefings and who travels with the president, because it's a limited group of people. So it's kind of like the elite, if you will, of the media. And the media has always taken upon itself to be the source of information for the country. So they believe that their information and the way they present it is the correct way that everyone should perceive the country, and the information that they deliver is supposed to be the truth. And of course, we know that for the longest time, for decades actually, but more specifically in the last 8 years, how they have been manipulative and coordinating with the establishment and the Democrats, because essentially the media is an extension of the Democrat Party. Now, of course, I wax and I'm burying the lead here, but I just wanted to set everyone up with the idea of why this is such a pressure point for me. Moving forward, the White House press pool will be determined by the White House press team, as it should be to an extent. Of course, when the White House changes, when the presidents change, things change, and this is where we are today. White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt announced a surprising change to the way the White House press pool will be organized and delegated after the AP lost their coveted special spot with the president after refusing to use the new geographical term, the Gulf of America, for the body of water that laps at the shores of 5 states as well as the eastern shores of Mexico. Leavitt decided to shake things up even more. Now, here's what's fascinating. We just spent the last 8 years of the establishment uniparty empowering the left to utilize or to use their ideology, philosophy, and worldview to identify individual people. DEI, multiple genders, and all these things. And we were supposed to respect that, or else we would be banned or canceled, which many of us were, or many people were, on Twitter, for example. But they couldn't find it. They couldn't take it upon themselves to identify the former Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America. And so, see, when it comes to them, as we've always said here, when it comes to the left and Democrats, they never hold themselves to the same standards they expect from everyone else. So this is part of the hypocrisy, the double standards that these groups of individual people exercise, and now they don't have that ability, and they're angry that they're being called out on it. In an announcement during Tuesday's press briefing, she said that the White House would be opening up the White House press pool for certain and special events. This privileged access, she said, is not a legal right for all. And that's important to remember here. This is a privilege. They are being allowed to be there. But when these individuals are empowered by the establishment or empowered by the Democrats, they just assume that this is what they're supposed to do because of protocol, right? The old way, or the traditional way, which is why we often identify the government as a machine, because that's the way it is and that's the way it works. So you have a up-and-coming, very energetic, very enthusiastic individual like a representative or maybe a senator or someone who's ready to get in there and start making changes, and it's almost impossible for them because it is a machine. A federal judge agreed with the White House on Monday, perhaps only temporarily, as a hearing is scheduled for March 20th, that the ban is not worthy of an immediate reversal. So the thing is, they're trying to cling to their power. They're still trying to maintain their power. And of course, the reason they didn't identify the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America is because they want to test those limits, right? They want to test their boundaries. They want to cross the lines. They want to blur the lines. They want to see how far they can go. And basically, as we've always said, when it came to the left and the establishment empowering them, it was always about, what are you going to do about it, right? So let's see what Karoline has to say here.
And finally, as you all saw yesterday, a federal judge denied...
I'm sorry. Let me go to the better view of it. Here we go.
And finally, as you all saw yesterday, a federal judge denied the Associated Press's emergency motion for a temporary restraining order against myself, our Deputy Chief of Staff Taylor Budowich, and our Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, for our decision to remove the Associated Press from the White House press pool for certain and special events. The judge's ruling, upholding our decision to deny the Associated Press such privileged access, reinforces the truth. And it reiterates what I said from this podium last week when that suit was filed. Asking the President of the United States questions in limited spaces, such as the Oval Office in Air Force One, is a privilege that unfortunately has only been granted to a few. It is not a legal right for all.
Exactly. And you have to understand the empowerment that the left gave, that the empowerment that the establishment gave the left made them think that they were invincible, that they were untouchable, and that rules and regulations and these sorts of things didn't necessarily apply to them, which is why we saw a lot of this happen in the last 8 years with all of the lawfare against Donald Trump. Because in those situations, they always thought that they were in a position of privilege. And at the same time, as I've mentioned here, their attitude was, what are you going to do about it? And so, and that's the privilege they were. So from the White House Correspondents Association, a group of journalists on the beat elected by their peers have long overseen the rotations of print, radio, and television correspondents that make up the pool. A 13-member group of journalists allowed access to the president is a smaller settings. So here's the thing you have to remember when we talk about the establishment and the way they coordinate, whether it's in Hollywood, whether it's in music, whether it's in entertainment, whether it's in media. Any of these things are always controlled by a smaller group of people, right? The cogs in the wheel. There's always going to be a group of people that tries to keep everybody in line. The rules, right? The club rules. And this is how they rein each other in. This is how they keep everybody under control. I don't leave it on some boring looking print for you. But we'll go to Axios here because here we're going to see the far left here from Axios and their response to this. And I want you to pay very close attention to the wording when I read some of this. White House strikes back at AP, takes over press pool coverage from reporter group. So they're already using an aggressive stance in their framing as though the White House strikes back at AP, the vengeance, right? It's just absurd. So we're going to go down here. And during the news, moving forward, the White House press pool will be determined by the White House press team, Leavitt said in a briefing, as we just covered. Daniel said the White House move tears at the independence of a free press in the United States. No, it doesn't. It simply reduces their access to certain areas. They've always been able to do what they wanted to do. All you had to do was be on Twitter the last 8 years to see that this was their little gathering area, their staging area to where they press their narrative. And they also allowed for, and this is where a lot of the left were able to get a lot of their empowerment. This is where they were able to get their power. They went on Twitter, and anyone who objected to their plans and their narratives and their directions and their ideology, philosophies, and worldview were simply shut down via dashboard. Even the Department of Homeland Security, as we learned in the Twitter files, along with the FBI, the NSA, and other agencies within the government, were shutting people down. Listen to this carefully. In a free countries, leaders must not be able to choose their own press corps. Think about that for a minute. They assert by this statement that the leadership is not able to choose. However, when that leadership changes, they simply drop this ideology and philosophy, right? When it's their guy in power, when their guy has the control, then they know that they're safe and free and able to do whatever they want. Now, they still have to follow the rules. They still have to follow the protocol, or they could get in trouble. In other words, you do things if it's a Democrat president to make the Democrat president look good, but if it's not a Democrat president, then you use language like this, that they're not able to choose their own press corps. The White House said in a court filing Monday that news organizations across the president, wait a minute, what? The news organization's access to the president is not a constitutional right. It's not. It is not. And you see, they play this stupid game about the Constitution here and the Constitution there. The Constitution is only, as a conservative, I look at the Constitution, as I revere the Constitution and have a reverence for it and a sense of respect and understand the dignity of it, as well as the Bill of Rights and the principles and philosophies of our founding fathers. When it comes to Democrats, it's just a matter of convenience, what they can and can't use it for, what they can and can't manipulate it for. And so we see that here now they have this attitude that, oh, well, we've always done it this way because it's traditional. We've always done it this way because of tradition and this, that, and the other. Well, things are different, and they're always trying to find some leveraging point when it comes to how they report things, particularly now that Donald Trump is in power, because they know he's in power. They know he's the chief executive. He can make these decisions over these agencies, whether it's the FBI, the NSA, the CIA. He's their boss, right? He's the commander-in-chief of the military as well. So this isn't a mystery to them, but they try to play to people's ignorance and thinking that, well, we'll tell you how it should be because of tradition. We'll tell you how it should be because of the Constitution. But they never really go into any context. They never go into any of the details of what they can't do and what they shouldn't do. And, of course, they have no reverence. They barely have an allegiance, much less any sort of loyalty to our country. And we're seeing it here, and we're seeing it unfold. And that's why I'm glad that Karoline came out. And Karoline had to actually come out and explain that it is a privilege for them to do this, right? It's extraordinary. But nonetheless, I welcome your thoughts and comments down in the public section below. Are you glad about the changes that you're seeing across the board? I mean, so here they are. The media is playing this game of we're going to continue to call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of Mexico. Now, to me personally, when it comes to the Gulf of America or the Gulf of Mexico or any of this, when I grew up in Florida, we called it the Gulf. This is just almost like a power play, a shift, a back and forth, and of ideology. And so it was just a pressure point for the media to push to see what the president would do. Because, again, they still have this, what are you going to do about it attitude. And that's falling apart. And it's going to continue to fall apart. Now, we're less than 100 days into Donald Trump's presidency. I think we're just over a month. And so they're at the beginning, they're gonna wrangle, they're gonna push buttons, they're gonna push back, they're gonna resist, and so we're just gonna continue to see this nonsense happen until they fall in line. And it's fascinating, isn't it, how they've had to change how they attack Donald Trump and how they attack Elon and how they attack in general, because they were devastated. That popular vote was massive. But nonetheless, guys, I welcome all your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section. Of course, you can always hit that like button. And, of course, all of you across social media, I want to thank all of you for your continued support. And those who are now watching on the TikToks, thank you so much for your guys' support. And so below this video, you can find the various social media links that I belong to include X, by the way. That's down below there. And, of course, if you're order frequently from Amazon or a Prime member, you can use my landing page link down below. It helps out the channel. But, of course, your likes, your shares, and your comments always help out across all tech, so I appreciate all of that you guys do. Appearing there on the screen, that will be the channel icon. You guys can click on that if you're watching specifically on YouTube. You guys can click on that to subscribe, as well as to select notifications. That way you know there's content here on the channel. And I'll see all you guys in the next video.